Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this month's Economic Development Committee meeting. We're going to take a couple minutes to do some general introductions, and I think we're going to start with those on Zoom if we could. So, Council Member Ricky, I'm going to go to you first.
Hi, Chris Ricky, Modesto City Council member for District 3.
Thank you. And Monica?
Hi, Monica Flynn, Opportunity Status Loss Business Development Specialist.
Thank you. Kelly?
Good morning, Kelly Talent, Senior Property Manager for Vantage Fair Mall.
Thank you. Michael?
Morning, everyone. Michael Gaffney with PG&E and Chairman of the Board.
Thank you. Bob?
Hello, everybody. Bob Kimball, City of Modesto Economic Development.
Thank you. Todd, if you can't unmute, we'll come back to you later. Okay, he's multitasking meetings right now. So we're going to go ahead and move to the room, and we're going to start right here if you could. This side, this side. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Shane, and I'm a consultant. I also work with the SPDC.
Nice, thank you.
David Wright, City Council.
Thank you.
David Kamens, Mid Valley IT.
And I'm Trish Christensen, President and CEO of the Modesto Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Sabrina Gonzalez, Fuel Membership Coordinator here at the Chamber.
Thank you. Bill Robinson, representative with Principal Financial here in town and also on the board and chair of this committee running targets today.
I'm Peggy O'Donnell and I'm on the Chamber Board.
Adriana Garcia, Community Liaison for the PACT, also involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and a consultant for SBC.
Data for Regulatory Analyst for Modesto Irrigation District. I'm Sarah Muller. I'm a Program Manager with EPD.
I'm Scott Reed. I'm Chief of Market Development for the Food Funded Marketplace. I'm doing partnership reports today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lourdes Urande, Executive Director of the Central Valley PAC Center.
Yeah. Okay, Bill, run your agenda.
Fantastic. So we do have a couple of items of general housekeeping before we get into our presentation today. And I want to thank everyone for marking out the time to be in attendance. Very much been looking forward to our presentation today from Lourdes. And so before we do that, if you take a look on the screen there, we do have our meeting minutes from our previous meeting. If you've had an opportunity to review those or were present, we'd certainly take a motion for accepting and approving the minutes for the previous meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. And is there a second out there?
I can second.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. And so we'll submit those minutes into record, and that is good. Typically during our presentation or at the end of our presentation, we'll leave some time open for some Q&A. Not entirely sure how much time we should expect for that today, but we'll adjust accordingly from there. And then also just as a quick shout out to those who are able to be in attendance for our meeting. We do have that sponsored today, catered lunch in. And so I want to acknowledge that. And maybe just as a quick reminder, I know who we had last month. Who did we have sponsor us today? Same. Okay. So Peace of Mind, Pest Control sponsored. And so just a quick shout out to the organization for supporting the committee in that way. So thank you for that. So I think without further ado,
Let's let them introduce themselves real quick.
thank you. Appreciate that. We just had a couple of folks pop in. If you can go ahead and share your names and company, who you're with.
Hi, I'm Kelly Cervantes, and I'm with the PAC Center.
Good. Good. Glad you're here.
Hello, I'm Anarthi Martinez and I'm with the PAC Center as well.
Perfect.
And
Good.
I am Mary Perez Alves from the PAC Center.
Fantastic. Good. Thank you so much. And
John.
get another.
John, thank you for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, John Beckman, CEO of the Building Industry Association of the Greater Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, John. Good. All right. And we still have Todd multitasking.
Yeah.
So that's fine. All right. Very good. So Lourdes, I'd love to have you again introduce your organization, and we can head on into your presentation here. We'll go ahead and share the slide deck, if you will, as well. And
Absolutely.
love to have you share with us.
Michelle, thank you so much for inviting us to come here. We have been meeting with the various people throughout the community, telling them about the PAC Center and what we do, and I'm super excited to present to you guys today. As I mentioned, I'm Lourdes Durandi. I'm the Executive Director of the Central Valley PAC Center here in Modesto. We're kind of covering the whole Central Valley. The PAC Center, just in general, it's an employment and training center, and we are partnering with all the local training facilities and other community economic development groups as well. And so with that, I'm going to introduce our Chief Market Development Officer, and that's Scott Reed. He's from our corporate office in Folsom, and he's going to provide you an overview of how we got here and just kind of give you an overview of what we're doing. Scott.
Thank you. Okay. Steal this guy.
So it's gonna be the arrows that you're gonna use.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you all for taking time out of your day. I really appreciate you coming to learn more about the PAC Center, which we are going to talk about, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about a couple other things that are happening in the industry, and also an organization called the Move, which is a partner with the PAC. And I'm going to talk a bit about this logo and this linkage, because it's something you're going to start to see more and more around the local community. It is part of our logo at the PAC. As I said, I'm going to explain what the PAC is and what the PAC Center is all about. And it's also very much ingrained into the Move. The Move is a new online employment marketplace. We talked about how it works and why it works, but think of it almost as kind of an Amazon for employment. It's an online marketplace for employees and employers to match and find the best jobs in the local community. And I'm going to talk about how all this stuff kind of works together. And this shouldn't take us more than maybe 2 hours. Is that
Nice.
Oh, making points already.
no, I didn't need that one. I tend to talk fast, so if I'm going too fast, somebody raise their hand and I'll kind of slow down a bit, but I want to be respectful of your time. So this is about a 20-minute presentation. There's a lot of information here that I'm going to go through relatively quickly, and then we can dive into Q&A. And if there's anything while I'm talking that doesn't make sense, you want me to repeat or a question with this small group, just feel free to shout it out. I'll do my best to answer it. So let's talk about what the PAC is. The PAC is a workers' trade association. It was created for the sole purpose of representing the workers in a given community. It really comes down to three things. You'll see the word MOS and more interchanged, because it means the same things, just depends on what language you're speaking at the time. But it really comes down to our mission at the PAC is to do three things for our members. One is provide them with more opportunity, provide them with more money and benefits, which is kind of grouped together in terms of compensation, and most importantly, more support. And I'll explain how that all fits together today as well. One thing I do want to be clear about, though, is the PAC is not a new organization. It is relatively new here to the Central Valley, but we've been in existence now for almost 7 years. We have almost 9,000 workers that are part of the PAC that work up and down the state of California. Those are members. At any given day, there's about 6,500 of those that are actually actively working at an employer. So you can be a member of the PAC, but not necessarily be employed at that time. We paid out over $5 million of non-salary compensation to our members. Those are things like pension, 401k contributions into health plans, bonuses, safety bonuses, training. These are things that we reinvest back into our workers. And again, I'll explain how that all kind of fits together. How we do it, we talk about some of the things that we're going to be doing, including paying for the PAC Center. How do we do it? Well, the reason that we exist is we have an agreement with the state of California that allows us to take advantage of a particular part of the employment law that generates significant savings for those that hire the workers. We take that what we call wasted money, and we reinvest it back into our workforce. And where that wasted money comes from is anybody that's run a business here in California understands that California is one of the most expensive states to run a business in the entire country. And it kind of comes down to 2 or 3 different things. One of them is workers' comp cost. Workers' comp in California is the highest in the country outside of one place, which is New York City. Aside from that, California is the most expensive workers' comp state. And if you compare, these are called class codes. So this is a job description. So if you're a worker that works in this class code, if you do that same job at Oregon, the workers' comp premium is $1.64. But you step across the state line, California, it's $14.40. And that holds true all over the country, but especially just in the states right across on our border. You step over the state border and you can save as much as 500 to 600% on your workers' comp cost. Workers' comp is the #1 most expensive thing that an employer has to pay for outside of wages and taxes. The other thing that California has that no other state in the Union has is something called PAGA. And PAGA stands for the Private Attorney General's Act. What it allows an employee to do is to file a lawsuit against their employer on behalf of every worker that works for that employer for anything that is regulated by the state of California, including employment laws, which, by the way, in California, there's now, this is actually not the end of the slide, it's now over 400,000 individual laws and regulations that an employer must meet if they have workers that work in the state of California. So it's not too hard for an employee to find one of those 400,000 and go, I'm going to sue my employer because they didn't give me 30-minute lunches, they gave me 20-minute lunches. And so I don't spend too much time in PAGA, but it's a big cost driver. And so basically what drives PAGA claims and what drives workers' comp costs to be 500 times what it is in neighboring states is this guy. Better call Saul. Are there any attorneys?
Let the jokes fly now. Right, yeah.
I've done this before with some attorneys, and we're not. I don't want to turn this into an attorney bashing session because that's not what it's about. But what it is about is litigation. Litigation drives the cost of employment in the state of California to the roof. So all I want you to take away from this is that with the pact has this agreement with the state that says we don't have litigation in our workers' comp system, and we are immune to PAGA. We can't have PAGA claims. So when you take PAGA out of the equation, you take litigation and workers' comp out of the equation, that reduces our employment cost by as much as 50%. And in order to get that deal,
We are recording.
you have any issues, call Lourdes.
Right. Shit.
Apparently the attorney is watching the presentation.
Try that again.
There we go.
So there's only 70 of these types of programs in the state of California. ABOOV is one of those 70s. And what it allows is for what's called alternative dispute resolution, or ADR. Again, I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but ABOOV isn't the only one. These very large organizations like Safeway Foods, City of San Francisco, City of Los Angeles, etc. And our deal with the state is that because we can use this ADR process, we take a portion of that savings and share it back with the people that pay the bills, the employers. But we also share a substantial amount of that savings back with our workers or with the employees. So that's where the money comes from. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's happening, or at least our perception of what is happening in the employment space. Not only here in California, this is a national phenomenon. And this is what I call a perfect storm. So if you ever follow the weather world or the movie The Perfect Storm is when 3 unique weather patterns collide to create what is called the perfect storm. It could be hurricanes, it could be snow events. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's very rare. What's happening in the employment space right now is conversions of 3 major things. One is there is actually an increase in the number of jobs that are available in the workplace today. At the same time, there is a decrease in the number of workers, not workers that could work, but workers that are willing to work in the jobs that are open. Add that to the state of California, I just got to fill in the blank. Increase in blank, which is workers' comp costs are going to the roof. For those of you that pay workers' comp, if you haven't received an increase, I'm telling you one's coming. Increase in wages, minimum wages going to $18 an hour. Increase in litigation. again, not to pick on the lawyers, but the number one paid advertisement during daytime television is attorneys. And the ads basically read, are you at work? Did you harm at work? Do you have a dispute? Are you injured? So what happens is that some of these workers are coming back to the workplace now and they're finding that work is hard. However, maybe if I file a fake workers' comp claim or I file a claim against my employer that I can get paid for not working, that's part of the reason why litigation is going to the work. And the more litigation there is, the more regulation there is in California. I also call it COVID fallout. This is just that. A good portion of the workforce was paid to not work. And now they're going back to the workplace, kind of like they don't want to, but they have to, but they're not happy about it. And so that creates, again, this chaotic environment. You add all that with the fact that we're now going through what was called the Great Resignation, or the Great Revitalization. I actually think it's more about the workers now are saying, maybe what we did before pre-COVID is not the way we should do it moving forward. And we consider it to be more of the great upgrade, meaning that the employees, because of the supply and demand curve is so out of whack right now. I mean, there's more demand than there is supply, demand getting jobs and supply getting workers. The workers can be a little more choosier about where they work and why they work. In fact, we did a survey of our PAC members, those 9,000, and said, what's the most important thing to you as it pertains to your job? I lost this bet because I bet pretty heavily within our corporation that they were going to save money. And it's actually not. What they said was flexibility. They want to be part of this new gig economy. I'm not just talking about being an Uber driver. They basically want flexibility in terms of when they work, how they work, and who they work for. The old paradigm, pre-COVID, pre-supply and demand was the employers were in charge. So the employers said, you can work from 8 to 5. If you don't like it, go work someplace else. That's not what the workers want right now. They want to be able to work split shifts, maybe 3 days on and 2 days off, or work the night shift for 2 days and work the day shift for 2 days. And because that flexibility doesn't necessarily exist in the traditional work model, it is something that I think as employers we need to address, and something that we address at the PAC. So we're very respectful of giving flexibility to our workers. The number two thing, again, not even money, was treat me with respect. They want to be feel valued at their place of work, which again, go back 10 years ago in the employment space, the employer space was like, look, you don't like the work you're doing, hit the bricks. We got 10 people standing in line to fill your job. So there wasn't much respect given to those workers, and there needs to be an improvement in that. The third is related to money, but it's more about a path towards upward mobility and increased earnings. Not just pay me more for the job I'm doing now, but give me a chance to make more if I do a good job. Give me a chance to learn, train, and expand my career, not just pay me more money to do the same job that I'm doing now. So those three things, combined with the fact that unfortunately we are becoming a workforce of workers that make less than $20 an hour, which means these are not high-paying jobs. 55% of the workforce nationally earns $20 an hour or less. And that's because America is now creating jobs that are not necessarily technology white collar driven. They are logistics, guys and gals working in warehouses, truck drivers, hospitality, restaurants, hotels. That's where the open jobs are. And in fact, there's over 5 million open jobs in the United States right now. 20% of all layoffs that are happening in the total workforce right now is happening in the white collar tech space, because as technology becomes more and more efficient, there's actually less workers that are needed in that space. But technology still hasn't figured out how to get the goods from point A to point B. So the jobs that are increasing right now at a rate of 40% are those $20 an hour number of jobs. In fact, I just saw the other day that American Airlines has 46,000 open job reps right now. They're not hiring 46,000 pilots. They're hiring 40 pilots, 40, whatever the math is, 43,000 and some change. Baggage handlers, people that fuel the planes, clean the planes, move the planes, take care of the planes. And so those are where those open jobs are right now. So it's $20 an hour. So we think there is a way to take advantage of this perfect storm. And one is that you're going to combine the pact with something called a VOO. And we also believe very strongly that in these communities, we need community support. And that's why we're here. So you all, Modesto, whether you're part of this organization or you're an employer or worker, we're asking for everybody to kind of pull in the same direction to make this whole program work. So let's talk a little about a VOO quickly. So there is an online marketplace for every single type of consumable item on the planet. Whether you're looking for a hotel, car, anything, you can find it online. There's not in the employment space right now. Employment and staffing particularly is in a very old, outdated 1950s model. So what we're doing at a VOO is we've developed a new workplace technology. So the employment model, especially here in the Central Valley, most employers, they hire a certain amount of W-2 employees themselves, but then they look to staffing agencies or employment agencies to fill the gap. Meaning as seasons go up and down, they may not need full-time employees, they need employees for a certain amount of weeks or months, or sometimes even staffing agencies year round. And those staffing agencies right now are underperforming. And we've done some surveying of that, and here's all the different things that we've heard from employers. My blank, basically my staffing agency, doesn't deliver workers, or they cost too much, but basically they always talk about this. There's not enough ability to fulfill their open orders. And there's a reason for that. So the current staffing model looks like this. These are all the workers. 1, 2, and 3 are the employers in a given community. So these employers out there say, there's not enough workers out there. Our opinion is there's plenty of work. They're all here. They're just not seeing them. And the reason for that is that these employers go to these staffing companies to try to get employees, and the employees go to the staffing companies. So they all go to these staffing companies, but they go to different ones. And then these staffing companies, quite frankly, what they do is it sounds a little unorthodox, but they basically sell these people to these employers for as much money as they can get. And so if these employers out there need certain types of workers, they're only actually seeing a certain portion of those based off of which of these staffing companies decide that this worker is best suited for that job. And quite frankly, their interests are not aligned. What the staffing company is trying to do again is get the maximum profit out of that worker. So they may place a worker at a job that they don't like, but it's because the staffing agency can get a 50 or 60% markup on the hourly wages that are paid to that employee. So what ends up happening? The employer's not happy because they're overpaying. They're not getting the best workers because they're only seeing subcontacts of all the workers that are available. The only ones that really benefit here is the staffing companies in the middle because they maximize their profit based off of how many workers they have. So what we're doing with the Blue Marketplace is we're eliminating the middle. We're taking the staffing company out of the mix. The way that we do that is we allow this new technology to exist where the workers, the work sites at the top, they go into piece of technology and say, I have 5 open jobs. Here's the job descriptions. Here's what I'm willing to pay. And we work with a set of recruiters that are all independent contractors in a given community. And then the recruiters work with all those workers. And where these workers come to is what we're going to talk about next, which is the PAC Center. The PAC Center is a physical employment center. And at that employment center, employees come in, they're onboarded into the PACT, and they're also able to come back and get training and all types of additional benefits we're going to talk about in a second. So what happens is there's a much more efficient system for the employees to get to the right jobs and the employers to get to the right employees. Because what happens here is in this online marketplace, we have access to a lot more data and it's a lot more efficient. So we're eliminating a lot of the overhead and the friction that happens in the employment space. All the paper is removed, it's all electronic. And as we capture information about workers, we're able to share that information with employers. So the employees get the best match with the best job, and the employers have a much better chance of selecting the right workers. So sometimes we'll work with an employer and say, well, I just need more workers. Our response to that is maybe you don't. Maybe you don't need 10 workers. What you need is 8 really good workers. And so with technology, we can start to capture things like who shows up on time, who moves the best number of boxes per hour, who doesn't take a number of sick days. So those types of information that gets rolled up to the employer can use that information to select their workers. Just like when you go on to Uber, you get the guy that has 1 star. And you go, I don't want that guy. I want to drive this guy with 4 stars. Right? Or you're on Amazon, you decide who you want to choose from to buy your products from. Sometimes the lowest price isn't the best option for you because it's going to take you 6 weeks to get the product. They don't have a return policy and they got 1 star. I'd much rather pay more for a supplier who's going to get me my stuff tomorrow and has 5 stars and does good, has good reviews. Same thing is going to happen with the workers over time. So we'll have that data that we can share with the employers, and it's good for the employees because as they share that, those that are good will be rewarded, will be paid more than those that don't. So that's that path. So I'll talk about Amazon a little bit. This is what Jeff Bezos wrote literally on a cocktail napkin that made him the richest person on the planet. And basically his idea was this, and it's called the Amazon flywheel. He said, if I build a website that the #1 focus is the best customer experience, then I will get more traffic to that website. The more traffic I get to the website, the more sellers I'll have. The more sellers means more selection. If there's more selection, guess what? The customer experience just got better. So it just feeds on itself. So the happier the customer is, the more traffic, more sellers, more selection. And that's called a flywheel that then generates significant momentum. And then what they decided to do was, as this efficiency became more and more efficient and started throwing off more dollars, he basically took all of the profits and reinvested it back into the infrastructure. So when Amazon first started, you could buy a book to live in your house for 3 to 5 weeks. Today, we all know, is in my market, I literally at 10 o'clock in the morning, I can put in that I need a bottle of ketchup, and by 4 p.m. it's delivered to my house. I live closer to Amazon. It's Fulfillment center, but that's just kind of mind-boggling. So that's because they invested all that money. So now they're obviously making a lot of money, making a little fraction of the dollar, but they're making it on a huge amount of volume. We want to do the same thing with the Pact, and the Pact Center is the center of that. And what we're doing is we believe the best customer experience is the worker. So we want to have the best worker experience possible. Why? Because if we have all the workers, that means we'll have more workers. Excuse me, more Pact members, we'll have more workers. The more workers that we have, that means we're going to have more work sites, which equates to traffic. So if there's more workers, there's jobs. As we continue to fill those jobs, we'll get more workers. It just kind of fills that same flywheel, if you will. And we're doing the same thing. We're taking all of the profits that are generated out of that machine and just reinvesting it back into this community, and back into our Pact Center, and back into the workers. Why? Because if we take the workers first, and we take care of them, it just feeds this whole infrastructure. So I'm going to skip through a couple of these because it's kind of technical in terms of the structure of the center. So it all starts with the Pact Center. Because even though we're using technology, work and employment is still a people-based business. It's the same reason why we're all meeting here in person, if possible. So we want them to go have one place to go. Because in the current staffing market, there's probably 30 staffing agencies here in the Central Valley. They all have an office. They all have their own facilities. They all have their brick and mortar things they have to pay for, their own infrastructure and staff. We're consolidating that all into one location. When you do that, when you invest more geography based and more concentrated, you can actually do more with your money. And so that's our idea on the Pact Center. So what we're doing is we're going to build these centers up and down the state of California. We have one that just opened in San Bernardino. We're getting ready to look at another one in Long Beach, and we're obviously doing one here in Modesto. And our idea is to find kind of old, distressed retail facilities. This was actually a Kmart that we're doing in San Bernardino. They got to turn around. We're looking at some things in some of the malls because malls are not what they used to be. No one goes there anymore. And we were here in Modesto looking at the old Toys R Us building, to turn that into our community employment center. I will be perfectly honest with you that we are falling out of contract on that. We had a disagreement with the current owners. And I think there's somebody else that will ultimately acquire that building. But we're still looking for something similar to that here in Modesto. And we're looking at 5 or 6 different properties currently. So we will be opening something here. Right now, we have a small facility in the Modesto Community College that we're working out of. This team is situated, and we're also going out to where the workers are. So ultimately, we'll have this big kind of employment super center. And the idea again is to take care of the workers. So it's a very, very upscale user experience for our workers when they come in. Current staffing model is like going to the DMV. You walk in, you're not treated with respect. You're told to take a number, and you're told to stand in line. And then when your number is called, fill out an application with a pencil and a plastic chair, and you're told we'll call you someday or we find a job for you. Our facilities are going to be top-notch, A-grade, places where, again, the workers are treated as kings and queens. And we kind of have this philosophy of it's the last job application everywhere they have to fill out. So once they come and join the pack, once they fill out their job application and they become a member of the pack, we feel like they'll never have to find another job. And the reason for that is that in our model, they can work for multiple employers, but they never lose the benefits of being a member of the pack. Once you're a member of the pack, you have a standardized health plan, a 401k plan, you have an employer paid pension plan, which these workers are making $18 to $25 an hour. Nobody's putting money into a pension plan for them right now. We do with that. So they can work for one location or one work site for 6 months, 6 days, 6 hours. They don't like that job or they want to work someplace else. They can leave. We'll reassign them to some other job, but they never lose their benefits. And aside from the benefits, we also so I talked about we have healthcare plan, the pension plan, 401k plan. We also offer same day or next day pay, on demand pay through our app. So someone can work and ship today, and they get access to their money tomorrow. One of our missions that we want to put, is anybody the same day or check cashing business here? So we're of the opinion that is not good for a community. It is predatory lending.
Right.
You are advancing $300 to someone that makes $300. You're charging literally interest rates of $300. It's not advantageous to the worker. And again, our model is always take care of the worker first. So we have a piece of technology that allows them to access their pay. They don't need a bank account. They can do it through Venmo. They can send it over to another country, or they can bring it out in cash. But we're going to do same day pay on our end.
Yeah, so like,
Sorry,
that
that was
deal's going on, yeah.
What's that?
We accidentally.
That's all right. So, and there's 21 other bonuses and perks. We do a safety bonus. We do a longevity bonus. So the more that they're there, the more every year they get in their checks. We do a Christmas holiday bonus at the end of the year. And we're also taking this substantial part of the money that generates off of that flywheel and reinvesting back in the workers. So we're just mentioning training. We're partnering with Volt, and we're partnering with Modesto Community College. We're partnering with anyone that wants to do training, whether it's forklift training, truck driver training, anything that will help these workers have a path towards increased earnings. The reason being is if we can get those workers making more money, they'll stay with the pack longer, they'll stay in this community longer, they'll generate more work. Again, just look at that flywheel. It just makes good common sense to reinvest that back with the workers. So that's really what we're all about. And then we just do a lot of things that are, again, very worker centric. And these are little things, but they mean a lot to this workforce. We're doing things like pack vending machines where we have our workers. Someone making $18 an hour to go over to a vending machine to spend $3 on a soda or $5 I've seen in some of these warehouses for a bottle of water this big. That again is no different to me than predatory. So if you're a pack member and you need a water, stick a quarter in, use your pack app, and get a water for business. We're not trying to make money off these workers. We're trying to help them. Same thing with food trucks. We're bringing food trucks out to various work sites. We have a hardship fund. We have an educational scholarship fund. So if workers are looking to get a GED or even have their children go to college, as long as they have put in a certain number of hours. The educational fund will help give educational grants and scholarships. So you'll start to see again this PAC logo more and more as you go around town, and more as we grow here in the community, from vending machines to we're putting in place no cost ATMs. So if you're a PAC member, you might have to pay your $3 to get $50 out and use your PAC pay card. And transportation is also a big issue for this workforce. So we're trying to help them either through using public transportation systems, we'll help pay for that. We're also setting up tax transportation cards that they need to get to a work site that will help them get there with Uber or something else. So what we do at the PAC Center, and when they come out to join the PAC, what we try to find out from them is what is preventing you from working. And so if it's childcare, if it's transportation, we try to overcome those objections to try to get them to the best job possible. You'll see a PAC bus coming soon. Don't have it yet, but it's in the works. And again, you'll start to see some more advertising just around the PAC, because our goal is to let the members start to know about us. And as word of mouth spreads with the workers, they'll tell each other, and it'll mean something to be part of the PAC here. And we want it to mean something to you in this community as well. So that's what we're all about. The PAC Center is technically open for business. It's not the big training center that we have envisioned yet, but we are working to get there. With that, I'm not sure if I hit my 20-minute mark, but it's definitely not a 2-hour mark. So any questions that I can maybe answer for? And I forgot there were people online too. So if there's
All over
questions.
this episode, you can see them, but one of them raises their hand.
Yeah, I have a question. From the employer? The employers themselves. So if you need 5 workers, we don't pay those. What we do is the technology matches your open jobs with the workers, and the PAC kind of sits in the middle. And so when you pay the workers, we send you an invoice for $15 an hour plus a particular markup, which is how staffing agencies work today. They'll charge you $15 an hour plus markups in this marketplace with like 35 to 50%. In our model, because it's much more efficient, our markups are substantially lower. But you pay a small percentage to the marketplace, which is the food, and you pay the PAC a small percentage as well. That's what pays for the center and staff and senior and the benefits and things like that. So the employer gets charged with health insurance and anything on top of it. It is, but again, when you see the fully loaded rate, it is very, very competitive. So if the employer has health insurance, the employer has workers' comp, how does the employer not have to provide that to the worker? So by law, they have to. Technically, those workers will work for the PAC, so they'll be deployed at your work site. So most employers that I mentioned, they may have 10 or 15 full-time W-2 employees, but they may also have 50 contingent workers or temporary workers. Even though they're quote temporary, they work for the staffing agencies. That's who their employer of record is, and that employer is the one that provides health insurance. So the employer pays the PAC, and then you pay the. Correct. Yeah. And it's an automated time and attendance system. So when the workers show up at your work site, they still work under your direction. You tell them where to go, what to do, what boxes to move. But instead of them timing in and out of your time system, they clock in and out of our time system, and we pay them on a weekly basis or they have advance pay and cover the benefits. And then same scenario, if they work for you for a particular time and you don't need them anymore, you don't have the hassle of firing an employee. They can't sue you for a pocket claim. They can't come after you for a workers' comp fraudulent claim. We are the employer, so our job is to then get them deployed at another work site somewhere. So there are times where the employees may want to stay with that firm as a full-time person and then move away from the PAC and actually be employed. They can't pay that option. The worker always rules. So in that scenario, what would happen is that the worker would say, I don't want to be part of this PAC organization more. I'd rather work for new ABC manufacturing. They're free to terminate their employment with us and go work for you. So far, we haven't had much turnover in the other markets that we're in throughout the state of California. Because when they go to you and say, I want to work for you full time, one of the things they're going to ask is, what's your pension plan look like? What is your 401k plan? What is your training program? And then also, when you see our markup rate, you as an employer, when you hire an employee, you still have to pay for their statutory benefits, their workers' comp, health insurance, taxes, all the things that cost to hire that employee. So you may be paying them $50 an hour, your shipping cost might be $20. Our costs might be $19. So you might say, you know what, I'd like to have this person work here long term. They may work here for years, but we will payroll them through the PAC and the benefits are retained.
What size companies do you have to do? Are they medium size or, say medium under 100 or?
It's all over the board. It's very surprising how many employers use temp staffing business. I would say 75% of the employers in the Central Valley have at least 1 or 2 temporary staff workers, just because it's easier for them to go with the ebbs and flows of just how employment works. We typically look to employers that have 25 or more employees, but we're happy to deploy workers wherever it's needed in the community. So it's not cost effective for us statewide to send one worker out to Reading, but in this market, we're very committed to 50-mile radius of where we're all standing right now. And so we believe that we should support all employers, whether you're an employer that has 2 employees, we need 1 good, hardworking person. We can go on to the Blue Marketplace, put in that job request, and if we have an open person for that job, we can fill it for you and send that worker out.
Do the employees pay to be in the top?
They do. They pay a membership fee, which is $20 per month. However, right now our bonuses and the additional compensation they make exceed what their contributions are. So it's kind of net neutral. We take out 20, but we put back over $20 in bonuses.
Question online.
Chris,
Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks. First of all, I really love this idea. It's really kind of next level, and it just really looks at the perspective of the workers and kind of like a huge piece of what most workers in Modesto need. Healthcare, pension, retirement, 401k, all that stuff you're talking about. It's like the Holy Grail. It's like almost too good to be true. So, wow, awesome. I love it. But I have a couple questions for you. Number one, do you guys have any plans to go public?
Currently, we are
Already
public. No, we're a privately held company. When I say you guys, the Move Marketplace is a private venture, privately held. The PAC organization itself is owned by the members themselves, so it's not owned by one person alone.
So that's like really good news, because if it's owned by the members themselves, then it has a better chance of surviving and not seeing what's happening over at Save Mart, where the hedge fund comes in, takes it over, and then takes everyone's benefits. Just basically shrinkflates the entire apparatus to suck every dollar of profit out of it. The other question I have is, are you hiring? And if you are, what's the hiring process look like?
And your mic is actually here, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
talk this
That's
way.
why I wasn't
Sorry.
sure.
No worries.
And I'm sorry, when you say, are you hiring? The PAC is always hiring. We never stop hiring. We're open literally, I would say 24/7, 365, but any worker that is willing to work and meets certain criteria, you have to go through some initial screening. And then the work sites themselves, as part of them going into the online marketplace, they decide what type of screening they want of their workers. So if you, as a work site, say, I want all my workers to be e-verified, drug screening, background checks, then only the PAC workers that are able to meet those requirements will be sent out to your work site. We have other work sites that say, I don't care about any of that, just make sure they show up and do the work. And so as the members join the PAC, we kind of screen them and ask them what they're comfortable doing. But we take all all workers that are committed to work, they're not working for workers, you don't get benefits from the PAC just by joining and paying your $20. You have to be working. And so that's the goal. And we're looking for workers that, again, are looking for that path to grow. And we're willing to reinvest back in those workers in return for them staying, as a member of the PAC and able for us to fulfill jobs in the community, which again, that whole flywheel, that's good for the community. It should be good to keep people here and give them a chance to grow in their earnings and grow in what they do as their job without them necessarily saying, I want to work as a welder for that one employer for the next 2 years. They may work in the welding industry, get their certificates and work for you one day and another employer, for a few months, but they stay here. They stay here.
The
Thank you so
workers,
much.
oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, just thanks so much.
The workers have a monthly membership charge of $20. What, if any, is the employer charge above paying the employee? Do they also have a monthly membership?
It's not a membership, it is a fee to have that worker deployed here. So think of it like when you use Uber, right? If you see actually what you're charged, there's so much that goes to the driver, so much for taxes, and there's this little thing called marketplace fee. That's what you would get from an employer from Uber. So if you need 5 workers and they're making $20 an hour, we pay them $20 an hour. We bill you $20 an hour plus taxes and a marketplace fee on top of that. So we may bill you around numbers $30, which if you use a staffing agency, you're probably getting that bill but paying $40. That makes sense. So there is fees involved, but there's things that we collect by law collect for like little things like taxes, right? And workers' comp and the benefits. And so we load all that up on top of the rate, plus we charge the marketplace.
You had, I think Safeway and City of San Francisco, which I believe are union jobs. How is it working with the union?
So we have a partnership agreement with the United Commercial Food Workers Union. So we are the PAC is in essence a subset of the UFCW that allows members to join the PAC, have the same protections of the union, which is the Alternative Food Resolution Program. But we don't collectively bargain for wages. We don't have strike clauses.
So you have the food worker union. What about SEIU or IBEW?
Currently, we do not have those. Our sole uncle, if you will, is UFCW.
I have a question for you. So the Abu marketplace is currently working and it has been for a while. So anybody could join that now and check it out, right?
You can go to aboop.com and see the information. And if you want to onboard, there's a little form that you fill out. We are, in full disclosure, we're in version 1.0.
Okay.
1.2 is coming out, I believe, in July, which has a lot more robust functionality. But we have customers that are using it currently. We just launched it in June. So I think we have our first 3 or 4 clients.
The website just launched in June.
Correct. The Abu marketplace just launched. Yes.
Okay.
So
Because my follow-up question was, is there any, I didn't think so, but there's not any existing PAC locations that are up and running in full steam. The closest one is the one that Lourdes is running right now.
and we have one in San Bernardino. Their doors just opened after July 4th.
Okay.
So that
Very
building is built and fully staffed, and their actual grand opening is the last week of. They already have about 400 members that have joined even before the doors open.
Members are
Employees, workers that are employed.
How are you going to market this to get the employees to join?
The employees?
Yeah, that want to be a part of it, understand the concept.
Yeah, so a lot of what we've seen in, as we've grown throughout the state is a lot of it actually is referrals from the workers themselves. But we've been very broad in our approach. So in this world, it's a little bit different, we believe, because it's very focused, meaning that we're just going to advertise here. Our dollar goes a lot further to get the word out to the employees. We're also going out to where the employees are. This team that's here, that they go to job fairs, and we'll start to see the pack tent, the pack bus at the county fair and at the local things. And we believe word of mouth is probably the best. But we're also advertising where the workers are, which is a little bit different than you won't see a full page ad in the paper, I guess. Am I dating myself?
Hardly.
But you know, it's amazing how word spreads on the social media platforms and those kind of things. So far, and Boris will speak this as well, when we get to the employees and we get past that initial trust issue, nobody said this sounds like a bad idea. Everybody from the employee's perspective, they like it. They like, because it addresses a lot of those things that we talked about earlier today. Flexibility, respect, the ability to have a path towards increased earnings, the ability to have choice in jobs that they work at. And so that meets their needs. And on the demand side, the employers, I would be hard pressed to find anybody that, if you really get to them and they're open, and you say, how's it going right now with the work? 99% of them go, it's really tough right now. And if you ask them how happy they are with their staffing agencies, they kind of look around and make sure the staffing agencies aren't around because they don't want to get them mad, but none of them are happy. They're all paying too much and getting too little. So, and I can't promise that we're going to solve every employment problem that exists in the shared escrow. But for certain industries and specific to this marketplace, we believe will be a very viable solution for at least 75%. Some of the, things like you mentioned, education, those that are represented elsewhere, certain industries like schools and government work, those kind of things, that's not really a fit for you. But you're doing manufacturing, logistics, food work, a lot of things that make up the economy of this community. We intend to be a service to those employers and to the workers. Because you can't serve just one side. And that's the downside to the current staffing industry is they say they're servicing the employees or they say they are servicing the employers. The reality is they are a profit business as well. So their job is to maximize profit for that staffing agency, which is not always in the best interest of the worker and the employer. I'm not telling you that Avoo is not a for-profit company. We are, but the only way that we make money is that marketplace fee. So the only way that we make that marketplace fee is there needs to be workers working and employers hiring those workers. If there's not efficiency between those two, we won't make any money, but we don't make it off the back of just one side, right? So that's why it's in our best interest that the more workers we have, more jobs we can fill, more jobs, more workers, kind of feeds off. Sorry, I keep doing that.
And so when we're trying to track them, when you're trying to track employers, are you just pushing them to go through instead of using their staff needs to now, like if they're looking for certain positions, abilities, that's just pretty much what you're pushing.
Yes.
That now there, as you mentioned, you're taking away the paperwork, but it's not electronically as they go to and move, are they gonna understand if it's a login process or is it something they're gonna put your information as a company or?
So right now at the company level, so when you go to Avoo, you basically fill out a short application that says, I would like to be considered to join the Avoo marketplace. Go through a quick vetting process and you're sent a user ID password to access the system and to get your rate, because they're going to want to know what is my rate for the jobs that I have open. And go back to your question about the other staffing agencies. We are say this, it's not an all or nothing. Like, when you join Uber, you don't push the button that goes, I agree to never take a cab or ride with anybody else. I will only use Uber exclusively. We're of the opinion, look, just join the transaction. Try it. If you don't like it, it's okay. Go back to your set. Stay with, keep doing what you're doing now. The next time you have a job, why don't you try Uber? And then when you see how it works, we believe there'll be a transition away from some of the current staffing models, but we're not requiring this an exclusive scenario. Same for the workers. We're saying come join the pact and see what jobs we have. We're not saying you have to work for us forever. Just come see what we have. If we have something that's a good fit for you, we'll take care of it. Okay. Where's that?
Well, I'm not,
I'm here the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I hope you have questions on the board. So it's your work.
sure.
So thank you guys, give him a hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Just one.
He does an excellent job of just explaining this whole thing. But you guys have heard my passion, and you mentioned where are we advertising and how are we letting people know and marketing this. I've spoken to a lot of the major, players, the city of Modesto, the Chamber of Commerce's, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's, Economic Development with Dave White and Opportunity Stanislaus Group, the EDD, just all the partners, MJC, CBOC. They all know about this, and so we're going to be doing more of these presentations to get groups and everybody involved in how we can all partner with this. So I thank you guys again for your time and allowing us to present here today. You guys know how to get a hold of me. I'm sure they'll put my information up there if you guys have any continued questions, but thanks again.
I would like to get links or email address that we can drop.
Yes, and if anybody wants further information, there's the evuv.com and there's links on there for recruiters that are interested in participating. They can go to the recruiter site, the employer site, PAC member site. All the information is on there, evuv.com.
Why don't you, if you don't mind, grab the keyboard?
Yeah,
I realize I
you
can't.
drop
fill
it
that
on.
in.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That'll work.
Thank you so much for that.
Fantastic.
Job seekers, yeah, the same site, evuv.com, and then it'll say workers, and just have them do the worker link, and all the information is in there. Yeah.
That's spelled right.
Or evuv.com, that's it.
There you go.
Very good.
Do you want to put my email? l.urende@evuv.com. Okay. DAY at evuv.com.
Nice.
There you go. Awesome.
Fantastic.
And then I have one person would like a phone call follow-up. I will get that to both of you.
Perfect.
Okay.
He was having a hard time hearing well.
Got it. And I'm not immediately seeing any other questions being raised from online or hands raised here in the room too. So I do appreciate you taking time to field the questions that you did. Is great. And Scott, thank you so much for walking us through the presentation and the background. Clearly, there is a need in that employment space, and that seems to be a consistent message that we've heard from a variety of industries that interact with the chamber, is trying to find that qualified workforce, right? And in some cases, it's kind of a, qualified would be nice, but how about just workforce, right? So let's start there, right? So there's definitely a need, and interesting methodology to approach the issue at hand. So appreciate that. Very good. Any other announcements for housekeeping, that kind of thing?
Nope, our next
Okay.
meeting here is August
Yep.
3rd. We do encourage you, even if you're a repeat attender, to register. It helps us on food count and getting the links done right out to everybody.
Sure.
Helps navigate that a little bit easier. And our next Government Relations Council meeting is on the 15th, also hybrid. So you're welcome in person anytime. Thank you for the presentation. That's Village Farm Mall.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate that.
Nothing else.
Yeah, so on the third, that's our standing time is the first Wednesday of the month, again, 11:30. And we're working to confirm a couple of our speakers in there. I'm not sure between August and September who we have there, but we're gonna confirm that and love to see you all back here. You're welcome to attend. It's an open meeting and glad to have your participation. We find that the meetings go better and we get better outcome and participation, obviously, when there's more organizations present, more people participating and attending in these committees. And so from the chamber's perspective, we certainly appreciate that as well. Very good.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you so much. And we'll return the balance of our time. We're knocking off a little bit early today, but thank you again for attending and whether it was here in person or online, and look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks so much.